No, ma'am, this is not a real ID. You can't just flash something you printed off the internet and claim you're a judge.
This is real. That's my official identification issued by the state. My last name matches the registration.
I've been doing this 15 years. I know a fake when I see one.
Then you also know impersonating a judge is a felony.
The evening of May 14th, Officer Bradley Knox cruised along Route 19, bored, restless, and searching for something to break the monotony. That was when he spotted a sleek black sedan gliding past him, polished, expensive, and driven by a woman he instantly assumed didn't fit the car. Seconds later, he switched on his flashing patrol lights, convinced he was about to uncover something big. But what he didn't know, what he couldn't have imagined, was that the woman behind the wheel wasn't a criminal at all. She was someone whose authority stretched far beyond his badge, and someone who would turn this traffic stop into the biggest mistake of his career. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. It was a bright afternoon. The sun reflected off freshly paved asphalt, the warm light bouncing off parked cars and sidewalk storefronts. Inside the black sedan, Judge Maya Ellington, 46, adjusted her seatbelt. Maya was a state judge known for her sharp mind and calm demeanor in the courtroom. Her day had been long reviewing motions, mediating disputes, and finalizing rulings. Yet she remained composed. Her hands rested lightly on the wheel, and her eyes scanned the road with practiced attention. Beside her, a stack of case files waited quietly. Evidence of the responsibility she carried every day. She had just left the courthouse, planning a short drive home before evening. The streets were unusually quiet, and she assumed it would be a routine trip, but the moment she noticed flashing lights in her rearview mirror, she felt a familiar, unwelcome tension. Officer Bradley Knox, 35, exited his patrol car briskly, his movements sharp and deliberate. Knox had a reputation for being impatient with certain drivers, particularly those who didn't look the part of someone driving an expensive vehicle. From the moment he saw Maya's sedan, he assumed she didn't belong behind the wheel. His bias was subtle at first, a raised eyebrow, a slight smirk, a way of looking at her that assumed guilt before evidence, but it was unmistakable. He approached her window and rapped sharply, impatiently. "License and registration," he barked. Maya lowered the window halfway. "Good afternoon, officer." Bradley ignored her greeting. His eyes flicked over her navy blazer, the neatly stacked case files in the passenger seat, and then back to her face. He didn't ask politely, didn't assess the situation. His entire stance screamed presumption, a belief that she needed to prove her worth, not the other way around. "May I ask why I'm being stopped?" Maya inquired, calm but firm. "You crossed the center line back there," Bradley said, his tone clipped. Maya knew she hadn't, and he must have known it too. Yet he held her ID roughly as he returned to his cruiser. The bias was clear. He wasn't stopping her because of her driving. He was stopping her because he thought she didn't belong in her car, in her neighborhood, on this road. Through the window, Maya observed his posture. Straight-backed, chest forward, movements confident but impatient. He typed her information into his dash computer with more force than necessary, clearly trying to justify what he already assumed about her. When he returned, Bradley held her ID loosely between his fingers, not giving it back. "You work? Where exactly?" he asked, a tone of disbelief creeping in. "I'm a state judge," Maya replied evenly. His laugh was short, incredulous. "Really? You don't look like someone who drives a car like this." Maya's expression didn't change. She could sense his need to assert control, his bias forming the conflict before any law had been broken. She recognized it from the countless courtrooms she had presided over. Assumptions made before facts, judgments passed before evidence. Bradley motioned toward the sidewalk. "Step out of the vehicle for me." Maya complied slowly, deliberately, knowing that any sudden movements could escalate the situation unnecessarily. She stepped out, arms relaxed, and placed herself a few feet from the car. He circled her sedan, flashlight in hand, more to intimidate than inspect. Every gesture, every glance, was a small assertion of power based on the assumption that she didn't belong in this position, in this car, at this moment. "You sure this car is yours?" Bradley asked again, skepticism dripping from his voice. Yes, Maya replied, steady. Bradley's bias was evident now. The assumption that a woman of color in an expensive car must be lying, must be hiding something, must be up to no good. Maya recognized it instantly, as she had recognized similar patterns in court and life, yet she said nothing. She understood something he didn't. He had stopped the wrong person. He didn't know it yet, but the law, authority, and truth were about to overwhelm his presumptions. Standing there under the warm afternoon sun, with the suburban road empty and the officer's flashing lights bouncing off her car, Maya Ellington remained calm. She was prepared, patient, and in control, all qualities that would soon turn this stop into a cautionary tale for the very officer who assumed he could intimidate her. And in that moment, Officer Bradley Knox had no idea that this routine traffic stop would be remembered long after it ended. Not for the car, not for the alleged violation, but for the lesson he was about to learn the hard way. The sun hung high, golden and unforgiving, casting sharp shadows across Route 19. Judge Maya Ellington stood beside her sleek black sedan, files neatly stacked on the passenger seat, her posture calm and measured. Officer Bradley Knox circled the car with a slow, deliberate gait, flashlight in hand, not searching for evidence, but asserting dominance. Every step he took screamed suspicion, not procedure. "You're really a judge?" he asked again, voice laced with disbelief. His eyes flicked over her blazer, her composed stance in the car, a car he clearly thought didn't belong to someone like her. "Doesn't exactly look like the courthouse kind of ride." Maya's expression didn't waver. "Yes, I am," she said evenly, her voice steady. "And yes, the car is mine." He huffed, annoyed, his pride pricked by something he couldn't quite define. Bradley's bias was clear. She was a woman, black, confident, driving a luxury car in a neighborhood he assumed she didn't belong. Every instinct in him screamed to assert control, to make her squirm under his authority. But Maya didn't flinch. "Step closer to the cruiser," he demanded, pointing vaguely. "We need to have a little chat." Maya moved a step, but stopped, holding her ground. "Officer, I've already provided my ID. What exactly is the reason for this stop?" He leaned in slightly, lowering his voice, but not his condescension. "You were weaving. Not a huge deal yet, but it's suspicious." She tilted her head. "I was driving straight. Perhaps you should check your rear view." Bradley paused, his pride preventing him from admitting error. Instead, he scribbled something on his ticket pad, muttering, "You people always think you're above the rules." His words were sharp, biting, laced with the type of prejudice that didn't need confirmation. He assumed guilt, based on nothing. Maya's calm didn't falter. She had presided over cases of false accusations, prejudice, and misconduct. She knew how to respond, not with anger, not with panic, but with the quiet power that came from understanding authority better than most officers ever would. "You're making assumptions," she said, voice low but firm. "Driving a car I own doesn't make me suspicious, and being a judge doesn't make me exempt from traffic laws. But it does mean I expect the law to be applied fairly, which so far, it hasn't." Bradley's eyes narrowed. "You don't get to lecture me." "I'm not lecturing," Maya replied. "I'm reminding you of your duty." He circled her again, flashlight swinging slightly, a subtle show of force. Then he paused at the driver's side door, shining the light into the interior. "You have anything in here I should know about? Drugs? Weapons?" "Nothing illegal," Maya said calmly, "and you have no probable cause to search my car." Bradley's jaw tightened. The bias was now layered with frustration, the type that comes when a person's authority is challenged by someone they underestimated. He took a step closer. "Step out of the car. Now." Maya complied, deliberate and steady, keeping her hands visible. Each motion was controlled, measured, every gesture designed to assert calm authority while keeping the tension high. Bradley's bias was pushing him toward escalation, but Maya's composure created a subtle, invisible barrier that he couldn't penetrate. "You know," she said softly, "you're making a mistake. The way you're handling this stop is unusual." and I would advise caution." Bradley laughed, a nervous edge creeping in. "Advice from a driver? I think I can handle it." Maya didn't respond. She didn't need to. She knew something he didn't yet. The power dynamics were about to shift, and it would happen fast. Every step he took, every flicker of condescension, only built the tension, like a taut wire ready to snap. Nearby, a few pedestrians glanced at the flashing patrol car and the black sedan. Some slowed, curious, sensing the friction, but not understanding the stakes. Bradley barely noticed he was locked on his assumption, convinced he was right, because he had always assumed he could control situations like this. Minutes stretched. Sweat began to beat at Bradley's temples, though he ignored it. Maya, standing coolly in the afternoon sun, observed every detail. She noted his impatience, the bias in every movement, the way he underestimated her authority. And she waited. Patiently. Confidently. Every second increased the tension, making the impending reveal inevitable. Finally, Bradley reached for the driver's door handle, intent on searching, perhaps to find confirmation of his prejudice. Maya tilted her head, hands relaxed, and said simply, "Before you do that, Officer Knox, I suggest you look at my identification again." Slowly, carefully. He froze. Her words, calm and authoritative, pierced the bubble of assumed control he had built. For the first time, uncertainty flickered in his eyes. The afternoon sun glinted off her ID as he finally read the title, State Judge Maya Ellington. His mouth opened, then closed. A stammer escaped, the first crack in his ego. Maya didn't move. She remained perfectly composed, letting the weight of her authority and the law fill the space. Bradley's bias, impatience, and assumptions had led him straight into a confrontation he didn't control anymore, and it was about to cost him everything. Standing beside her car, bathed in the afternoon light, Maya Ellington was calm, poised, and in complete control. And for Bradley Knox, the next few minutes would be a lesson he'd never forget. Judge Maya Ellington stood beside her black sedan, the afternoon sun reflecting off the polished hood, highlighting the calm control she exuded. Officer Bradley Knox lingered a few feet away, flashlight in hand, jaw tight, and posture rigid. For the past several minutes, he had attempted to assert authority, questioning her, gesturing, and trying to intimidate. But her calm and composed demeanor had started to unravel the confidence he usually relied on. "You're really a judge?" he asked again, disbelief lacing his tone. His eyes darted from her face to the car, then back to her, trying to process what he assumed was a mistake. "Yes," Maya replied evenly. Her voice carried the weight of someone accustomed to authority, someone whose calm could make even the most self-assured falter. "And while I understand mistakes happen, I also understand the law. Your actions just now stopping me without cause, threatening an unlawful search, are serious violations." Bradley opened his mouth, then closed it, searching for a defense. His pride, already bruised by her composure, made it difficult to speak. I was just doing my job," he stammered. Maya shook her head slightly, maintaining a measured gaze. "Doing your job doesn't include acting on assumptions, officer. You assumed I didn't belong in my car. You assumed my presence on this road was suspicious. That is bias, and it has consequences." He fidgeted, the flashlight now awkward in his grip. His attempts at authority felt flimsy, a thin shield against the reality standing before him. The bias he had relied on to control the stop was now his undoing. Every second of hesitation, every misjudged glance toward her, amplified the tension. Maya lifted her ID from the dashboard, extending it calmly toward him. The afternoon sunlight gleamed off the badge, crisp letters spelling out her title, State Judge Maya Ellington. Bradley froze. His eyes widened, the weight of realization hitting him like a physical blow. He had stopped to judge a woman with authority over his actions, someone who could challenge his conduct and expose his misconduct immediately. You're a judge?" he repeated, voice faltering. "Yes," she said, calm but firm. "And because of that, your assumptions and behavior during this stop are now a matter of record. Your bias almost escalated a situation unnecessarily, and I suggest you reflect on how authority should be applied fairly to everyone, not just those who look the way you expect them to. Bradley's chest heaved slightly and he stepped back, suddenly aware of the stakes. This wasn't about a car or a traffic violation anymore. Every word, every action had consequences far beyond his initial assumptions. The law, which he had assumed would protect him, was now wielded against his misjudgment. Maya didn't raise her voice. She didn't gesture aggressively. She simply stood there, poised, letting the sunlight and her composure speak volumes. Every second of his flustered silence underscored the complete reversal of control. "You should have stopped me respectfully," she continued, "and without prejudice. Instead, you relied on assumptions and bias. That behavior will be reported, and it will be reviewed." He swallowed hard. The officer who had entered this stop with certainty and arrogance was now left fumbling, realizing he had miscalculated completely. The balance of power had shifted, and the lesson was unmistakable. Authority misused can be corrected, and prejudice has consequences. For a moment, neither spoke. Birds chirped from the nearby trees, the sun shone warmly across the asphalt, and passing cars slowed slightly to glance at the scene. The street appeared calm, almost mundane, but the tension between the two was palpable, stretching across the shoulder of Route 19. Finally, Bradley lowered the flashlight, exhaling sharply. The confrontation, while not yet over officially, had reached a clear turning point. Maya's calm authority and the truth of her position had exposed his misjudgment. Maya straightened, adjusted her blazer, and finally said, "I will be documenting this stop and submitting it to Internal Affairs. I suggest you do the same for your own protection." Bradley nodded, defeated, words failing him. His assumption, arrogance, and bias had collided with someone who knew the law intimately, and the result was obvious. He had underestimated her, and he knew it. With careful movements, Maya returned to her car, opened the door, and sat down. She buckled her seatbelt, adjusting her posture so that even this simple act radiated calm control. She started the engine, the low hum filling the tense silence, signaling the end of the confrontation, at least for now. As she pulled back onto Route 19, the polished black sedan glinting in the afternoon sun, Bradley remained near his cruiser, staring at the space she had occupied. For the first time, he realized that bias and assumptions could not only lead to embarrassment, but could have lasting repercussions on his career. Maya drove away slowly, her composure intact, every decision deliberate. For her, the stop had been inconvenient, but manageable. For Bradley Knox, the encounter would linger in memory, a lesson in humility, accountability, and the cost of prejudice. And for anyone observing, it was a stark reminder. Authority is only meaningful when tempered by fairness, respect, and the law assumptions alone cannot replace it. The polished black sedan glided back onto Route 19, the afternoon sun reflecting off its surface, highlighting the calm dignity of the driver inside. Judge Maya Ellington exhaled slowly, her composure intact. The confrontation with Officer Bradley Knox had ended for now, but the events of the past minutes would ripple far beyond this stretch of road. Bradley remained near his patrol car, still gripping the flashlight, replaying every moment in his mind. He had entered the stop full of confidence, certain that authority and intimidation were enough to control the situation. But Maya's calm, measured responses and the weight of her position had undone him completely. Every word she had spoken, every gesture she had made, had been deliberate, a masterclass in command and quiet authority. Within hours, the Internal Affairs Division received a formal report. Maya had documented the stop in meticulous detail. The time, the location, Bradley's statements, and, crucially, his unnecessary escalation and biased assumptions. The language was precise, professional, and unmistakable. There was no exaggeration, only fact, observed behavior, and adherence to the law. Bradley's superiors reviewed the report the next morning. They noticed patterns in his prior stops, repeated confrontations that suggested bias and overreach. This was not the first time complaints had reached Internal Affairs, but it was the first time they came with irrefutable documentation from someone whose authority and credibility could not be questioned. By the end of the week, Bradley Knox was formally reprimanded. He was required to attend bias training, review procedures for traffic stops, and submit a reflection report to his department. The incident was logged in his personnel record, a permanent reminder that assumptions could no longer guide actions in the line of duty. Maya returned to her chambers later that week, settling back into her routine with the quiet satisfaction of justice served. The case files on her passenger seat, the weight of responsibility, and her unwavering composure had not only protected her rights, but highlighted a broader lesson. Authority comes with accountability, and assumptions based on bias can have serious consequences. Her colleagues at the courthouse discussed the incident in hushed tones, impressed by her restraint and poise. Many had witnessed officers stopping drivers unnecessarily, often escalating situations based on appearance or prejudice. But Maya's handling of the situation became a quiet standard, a story about how professionalism, calm authority, and knowledge of the law could correct even the most reckless assumptions. For Bradley Knox, the stop was a humbling experience. Every moment replayed in his mind, each one a reminder of how quickly bias can undermine authority. He had assumed control, underestimated the driver, and paid the price professionally, emotionally, and reputationally. Meanwhile, Maya resumed her day-to-day life, driving through the city with a renewed sense of vigilance and calm. She didn't boast about the incident or make it a spectacle. Instead, she understood the power of measured responses, the value of patience, and the importance of using authority responsibly. And yet the memory of the afternoon lingered, a subtle but persistent reminder of the lessons learned by both parties. One had faced the consequences of bias and misuse of power. The other had demonstrated how calm, informed authority can turn a dangerous situation into a lesson in accountability. Maya parked her sedan outside her home, the afternoon sun still bright, casting long golden shadows across the street. She stepped out, straightened her blazer, and walked toward her front door with the quiet confidence of someone who had not only survived a confrontation, but had done so with dignity and clarity. For anyone watching or hearing this story, it serves as a reminder. Assumptions can be dangerous. Authority carries responsibility, and the law protects those who know it and wield it wisely. If you believe everyone should be held accountable for their actions, comment "Accountability Matters" below, and don't forget to subscribe, because the next story will show how one wrong assumption can change a life forever.